All right, so tonight we'll be reviewing the last portion of Siman Kuf Yud Aleph and Hilchos Taaruvot. It's actually a good idea to review from time to time, even though we covered the halachas. Upon review myself, I actually looked into the Beis Yosef word for word, what the Ramo quotes, and things, of course, become clearer when you look at the Makor, when you look at the source, and it helps to understand the whole Inyan a lot better. Also, went over a little bit what the Shulchan has to say about some of the points brought out, and he has an incredible chiddush I'm going to share with you as well. So, obviously, depending on how much time one has, you can go on and look at the various Nosei Kelim and various Meforshim and gain some additional insight. And that's what we're going to do now, upon review. In reviewing, we're covering right now the last few seifim, which involve different scenarios altogether. Sif Hey, Vav, and Zayin. In Sif Hey, as opposed to having one Gedera of Isra and one Gedera of Heter, one Chaticha of Isra, one Chaticha of Heter, as opposed to having to deal with the Isurim in the Gedera and coming onto the din of Toilin, that it fell into the Isra, we're faced here with a different problem because both Gederas are Heter. Okay, so that's the scenario in Sif Hey. Both Gederas are Heter. And we happen to have one Chaticha of Isra and one Chaticha of Heter. Okay, we're still going to have the suffix is going to be as to where did the Isra fall into. And since the two Gederas are Heter, this is not your typical toilin here. And this needs a little bit of clarification. We will see that it really depends on the Machlokes Ramban and Rashba, which we explained, and I'll clarify that a little bit better this time. The whole idea of toilin really works when one of them is already mikolkal. I want to attribute the Isser to the mikolkal. I want to say that the Isser, the problem piece, is where it will not affect anyone. In Truma you have this. I mean, in Truma you have whether it's Truma, whether something is meduma, something is already mixed and not bato Truma and Chulin, or whether something is completely Truma. And I have Chulin, right, which I can eat, right, the Truma the Kohen can eat. If I can make an assumption that something went to the Truma, I'm safe, because Truma will remain Truma. It was always Truma. I can't eat it, and I can't eat it now, and that's good. Or if it's meduma, in other words, that it's mixed, which I can't eat anyway. If something is, in some respect, already mekulkal, already off limits to me, and I can say, you know what, there's a chance that this went there, good, I'm safe. So toiling, in essence, basically says, I will attribute, or I don't know if there's a better word for it, I will make the assumption that the Isser that I have here fell into the one that it won't make a difference for worse or for better.
But again, if I understand it correctly,
no, we're going to get to that. Let's,
we're
going to talk about that too. Uh-huh. Yeah, but let's not mix too many things at a time because there's a machlokes in that. Not exactly. Okay, so all right. So maybe let's clarify that. For the most part, everybody's pretty much in agreement because it's mevor from the Gemara that the idea of toilin is when faced with an issue of a derabanan. Okay. How that comes about, maybe we'll clarify it a little bit better. But you're right, not on a real doraisa. And I put in quotes, a real issue doraisa, there's no such a thing as toilin. Why? Because the basis of the foundation of toilin is safek derabanan lekula. Even though we did say, the Taz, I think, that the chiddush of toilin is even stronger than just the safek derabanan. I mean, in some ways, it's a bigger chiddush. Whereas safek doraisa is lechumra. So you have a suffix, that's a suffix. Here we have a suffix, and suffix derabanan lekula. It's just that it's a chiddush of a different type, that we were saying toiling here versus there. And the additional chiddush of 50-50 was you don't have more of an iser. Okay, 50 is also a chiddush. Okay, that's a very big chiddush called toiling. But you're right, not on a real iser deraisa.
Just asking because I was thinking of people made.
Yes. So very good.
And they might stop after.
That we reviewed this point. But the reason why I said, just wait a minute, is because, okay, since we're already talking about it, you can have, as we do have here, a Isser Deraisa Shenizgalgal, as we call it, L'Derabanan. In other words, because right now, what do we have? We have a problem with the shear there's no sheer derabbanan, the shishim that's required, but we may have roiv. Well, if you have roiv, you're safe. So it's coming down. It has started as it is a deraisa, but it's coming down to, well, I don't have the shishim that's required. So in a sense, we're dealing with a derabbanan here. Well, then toilet will work. Because as long as you have roiv. So if you have roiv, you're safe. In other words, we have the bittul. You have to have the bittul, because we'll say toilet under the deraisa. So you have to have the bittul for the deraisa. The whole thing is the derabbanan then. For the derabbanan, you say toilet. So that's an isur deraisa.
That is the machlokas function?
No. I thought you were leading on to something else. Which is really later on. So it's good we stopped and we covered that, because that's important. There's no toilet in a real isur deraisa. If it became an issue derabbanan, the issue therefore is derabbanan, not the isur, shishim roiv, then you can say toilet. All right. But how does toilet work? And this is how we will be able to, if we explain this, we will be able to understand the machlokes, the Rashba and the Ramban that we said last time that maybe wasn't very clear. That it's really a matter of not ruining something that is not ruined. Something that is already mekulkol. I'm going to dump it by making the assumption that it went to the isur. Well, okay, it's also anyway to begin with. Say it went there. Now, if I have took dares of heter, I have a problem. I cannot make one of them more usher than the other one, because that's what I'm going to end up doing by saying it went here, it didn't go there. Why did you say it went here? Because I don't like that. It has too much ketchup. Whatever. No. let it be there.
That could be an important consideration.
Yeah, but we can't use it. See what I mean? They're both dares of heter. They're both dares of heter. That means I'm having to choose. I'm having to be mekalkel one, in a sense. That we don't say.
What if it is mekalkel, not palatable anymore? It's ruined food.
Burn.
Is there any leniency? Is there that?
No, not really.
Not even.
No, not even for that. There was what I mentioned, which appears to be, whether it was the Isur Beheter or not, I don't remember, where if one was a big dera and one was a small dera. So, we went to the small one, not to the big one. Yeah, but it doesn't look like the Pri Megadim seems to learn different shot in that chiluk. That I think the Isur was saying, if you want to be machmir on the small one and not on the big one, something like that. But in other words, as far as we're concerned, there are no such differences where you can pick and choose if they're both heter. All right.
What if the isser is, I have a pot with and I have an isser that was thrown into a garbage bin, standing next to each other. Conceivably speaking, whatever fell, may have fallen into the garbage bin or into the pot with. Can I assume this garbage bin for temporarily is a pot? If this garbage bin were a pot, I could say it fell into the pot with the isser in. Here it so happens that the container is normally not called a pot, but it's called a garbage bin.
And you can't really, if it's a garbage bin, you should be able to.
Can I say the isser just fell into the garbage bin?
Well, not. Remember, if it's easily.
I wouldn't be able to discern it. I have all sorts of meat rests and all sorts of stuff lying in this
Okay,
garbage
all right.
bin.
I see your question, right? Because you have, you know what? You have a good question. Let's say you have a garbage bin in a butcher shop. He throws all the chalev, all the fats. Okay. And the question is, and what is he doing cooking in the store? Okay. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, you have a situation where you have a pot and you have a garbage bin.
Can I call the garbage bin kid early?
Apparently. I would say maybe yes, because it's the same question.
The reason I'm asking, of course.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Different from his
exactly.
With different. Oh, but it would have to have an isser in that garbage bin. If it's a garbage bin that that's a contain isser.
You know what? It's a good question, but we may be able to get some insight from the Aruch HaShulchan on that too, on something that's a little bit different. But let's analyze it for a moment. L'chorah, they should be the same. It's two gderos. What's the difference? After all, what's the gdera of Isser doing there anyway? It happens to be that gdera is a goyz, or at gdera is a pot to throw out Isurim. Otherwise, why are we dealing with a gdera of Isser here?
So basically, this gdera is kind of a garbage bin by the way.
Yeah. Now remember, I don't know if we covered it. If there is ever, and we're going to see that a little bit here, if there's ever a reason to say that it's more in one more likely than the other, then obviously we don't need toiling.
Yeah, but in this case, it's reason because I don't know where else.
No, I'll tell. No. Let's say. let's say that one of the pot, let's say the pot is covered and the garbage can is not covered.
So
No. So why would I suspect it went to the pot? Yeah. In other words, it all depends on the circumstances. I have to be. I really suspect. I really have a real suffix. If it's not a real suffix, because statistically or because of the circumstances, it's not so likely. Or we covered that by Sveik Sveiker too. If it's more likely it went there, then I have to. It's okay to assume that it's no longer really a suffix. It has to be an equal suffix. So I would agree with you. Maybe a garbage bin, or if it's an equal suffix, where did it go? If it's treif, it's a treif piece. Oh, you know what? There's a chance it went to the garbage bin.
Well, my question is now to extend this. Now, if I don't have an isser in it, I have a garbage in it. Pieces of meat.
Makes no difference. No, even if you don't have. Even if you don't have, it would still be a question of two kederas. But now it would be two kederas of heter. Right.
So
Yes.
Right.
But I'm thinking of the garbage bin as a kedera.
Right.
It would qualify as a kedera if I have reasonable doubt. That's the word. Reasonable doubt. Is that what the term you use?
But it's still two
Yeah,
meters, so it doesn't have.
Right.
If the garbage bin, but it's designated.
Right. So it's a kedera of
It's more
iser.
probable that it went in there.
It's designated for isser. It's empty. An empty garbage bin designated for isser.
Designated for isur. Yeah. So how did the problem present itself? Because the guy who was told to throw it didn't know where to throw it. Maybe. Yeah.
He threw it and he missed.
He threw it and missed.
He doesn't know where he threw it.
Yeah, but obviously, if there's more reason to believe that it went there, then there's no real suffix then. It's not that's not a suffix. A suffix means I have a real true suffix of where it went.
No, his point is there is no isser in that garbage.
Right, well done, of course.
But it is one designated for isser.
Yeah, I understand that.
Now that's where we normally throw isser.
That's where no right.
Is that sufficient to say the isser fell in there by a real suffix?
Well,
Or do I actually have to have an isser in that container?
No. There's a suffix because if I look down there, I see other pieces of meat there. Right, and I don't know which piece of meat is there. Maybe the pieces in the pot, I can't recognize them.
Right.
So if I have a very, very strong suffix here, that it could have equally gone here or here, that's the question that's what the halacha is talking about.
Right.
If I don't have so much of a suffix, because most likely it went in the garbage bin because everybody knew it was a piece of Easter meat, why should I think there's a suffix here? Unless the person didn't know what
to do. His example with someone throwing it maybe
then it's a suffix. It fell.
It's a real suffix.
Then it's
we
a real
have
suffix.
real suffix.
Then,
now the only question is, if I don't actually have an Isser bin, this question.
Sure.
But it is a bin designated for Isurim.
Okay.
So would that help me with respect to saying toilet?
Remember, toilet begins with a very unsophisticated event. A piece fell out of the shelf, out of the freezer. You're taking out stuff. Oh, it fell, and the two pots were for some reason next to each other. Where did it fall? That's a real suffix. And the chiddush is, wow, it's a chiddush. We assume it fell into the Isser. But why? Why make such an assumption? Think of it. They're both same equal distance from the shelf.
In order not to be kalkel the food.
No. It's a chiddush. We make this.
Right.
It's not saying that a human being necessarily was involved. By the way, with shechita, as we will learn as Hashem, a human being has to be involved. It can't be a monkey. It can't be that it happened by itself. A knife fell off the roof. Cut. It did the job. It has to be through human intervention. Where else do you see that? By Netilas Yadayim. You remember the term koach gavra? Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a certain level or certain degree of human intervention. Okay. Here, apparently, from learning the halachas, we didn't see any of that. It makes no difference how it fell. So it's very interesting that regardless of how it came about, if we have a real suffix, we make this assumption of toilin. Now, obviously, there are certain conditions, and what were the conditions of toilin? That it has to. We're talking about an Isser D'Rabbanan, right? And then you can have up to 50-50, right? Because if it's an Isser D'Oraisa, you have to have at least roiv, right? That was one of the conditions, right? And of course, we're dealing with a situation where depending which scenario we're talking about, either one Isser, one heter, one piece of Isser, one piece of. There are various scenarios. So in these scenarios, you make this assumption that it went to the one that's already mekulchal. So it's a big chiddush. It doesn't say how it came about. In other words, but apparently, if it came about and we have more reason to believe that he went to the garbage bin,
well, that would have to do with
then it's not a real suffix. Yeah.
Toilet.
Right.
So if I understand you correctly, when you're saying in the kalkel, it goes into
Right.
that's already mekulkel.
Right.
Mekulkel is strictly meant of mekulkel into the halacha of Isur.
Yes, only in the sense of the because I gave the example of truma. Truma is not mekulkel. Just I can't have it. The kohen can have it. So great. I'm going to make the assumption that the truma went to the truma because there it is welcome. It won't affect it. I won't have to come onto the halacha of bitul.
So that's what you know.
We call it that. We call it that which is already affected. That which is already
affected in terms of an isur,
of an isur or a limitation that I have from eating it. Right?
Now,
like
what if? Now I have a question for you.
Sure.
I think you probably know which one.
Yeah.
What if the owner of the truma and so on is a kohen?
Then he has no problem. He can eat whatever he wants.
Right, but if it will feed his guests or not.
No, then obviously the question.
So for the guest,
the
truma would be a mekulkel.
It would be a
mekulkel. For the
mekulkel.
kohen, it's not
a mekulkel, right?
So can he still say a toilet?
No, he can't. No.
He cannot.
For himself, he doesn't need.
Yeah, but for the guest, can he say a toilet?
Oh, I'm sorry. For the guests, he would be able. If they have the question, they would be able to, of course.
Even though for him it's not mekulkel. He's the owner of the food now.
Yeah. Well, if he's the owner, then.
So does it change it depending on who's going to consume? Whether we can say toilet or not, is that dependent on whoever is going to consume? If the kohen is going to consume it, since there is no problem for him, there is also no toilet for him. And for the guest, since he can't consume them, for him, the food
I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't really matter so much. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Because when a suffix arises, regardless of who we're talking about, a determination has to be made. This has to be resolved, especially if there's the possibility that others may eat from it, right? So I understand your question is that does it matter who asks the question? But
with respect to the mekulkel.
Yeah. If there is such a possibility that others may come to eat from it, I better know what the halacha is.
So the kohen, the mekulkel, if he can't feed it, people can't.
Yeah, take the example of somebody that cooks on Shabbos by mistake or intentionally, right? We have various levels of can he eat it, when can he eat it after Shabbos, right? If it was through a goy, it was b'chdei sheyaseh, right? And if he can't eat it, or he can eat it later, he's limited. What about everybody else? What if he's not going to feed anybody else? We still have to resolve this question. The halacha will remain just in case somebody else wants to eat it. If he ever comes, he will be able to eat it.
The kohen doesn't really have guests.
Right. So
he still needs to resolve the question.
He still needs to resolve the question in case it works. Yeah.
Fine, but with respect to he needs to resolve the question.
Right.
Now, the way to resolve it would be say it fell to the mekulkel. However, with respect to him, the truma is not mekulkel.
Right, that's correct.
So, since he's resolving it for the guest, he can say it's mekulkel for the guest, and therefore, within the context of what we're trying to resolve, it's called mekulkel, even though we can eat it.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, because he could eat it either way, and they will be able to eat the other one by saying, you know what, that piece of truma that fell did not fall into the chulin, and I'm cooking something for you with the chulin because you can't have my truma. Don't worry, that piece of truma that fell into one of the pots, it fell into my truma, it didn't fall into your chulin.
And the reason he can say this is that even
toilet.
though for him it's not mekulkel,
right, for them
with
it is.
respect to the problem he's having.
Right. All right. Now, so in Seif Hey, what did we say? That if the two of them are heter, so we don't have one that's mekulkel. Asur is staying, they're both asur filu be'isur d'rabbanan. There's no toilet. Im ein sham b'shum achas kedei levatel ha'isur. Of course, if there's not enough to be levatel ha'isur. Aval im yesh ba'achas mein levatel ha'isur, then stehen mutoris. Because once you have, the mechaber adds, once you have enough in one to be mevatel ha'isur, then we're fine. Because what are we going to say? We're not going to use the term mekulkel here in a sense, but we're going to be toile. You know what? It fell into the one that it's nisbatel. Even though it's not exactly a mekulkel, but for our purposes, it's the one that is not ruined by the nefila. By the two heterim being equal, one will be ruined. He's not mekulkel. You're making it a mekulkel. That you can't do. Here, this is not a mekulkel per se, but it's not affected. It's not affected. Good. Then we can assume it's going to go there. It's similar to the one that's mekulkel, even though it's not called mekulkel. Yeah. Okay. That was pretty much Seif Hey.
Quick question.
Sure.
Do I recall correctly that we say that we can make mitzvah
Exactly.
And if so, that's a much bigger just to say
exactly.
that one of them has a majority. Why does he give this?
So we may have briefly mentioned that point, Lechora in Sif Zayin, we talk about tziruf. Tziruf is something that apparently works, which we're going to talk about tonight a little bit more detail. Tziruf works. That's a whole halacha about that. That there are times and circumstances where tziruf works, not always. So what can we say? Even though we went through the various hezberim that the Taz brings down in the name of the Bach and so forth, of what possibilities are there in Sif Hey that preclude, right? That in other words do not allow for tziruf. The one that makes the most sense, the one that's the most acceptable is, guess what? In Sif Hey, the Mechaber doesn't mention tziruf. You have two heterim. You mitzaref it. And there's enough. Obviously, therefore, we must be talking about a situation where tziruf is not possible. That's the easiest explanation. There are various, we'll talk about that soon, of when tziruf is not possible. So instead of going through all the tirutzim, one of them was, okay, here's talking about one person there, two people there, one person, two nefilas versus one nefila, different tirutzim. Let's just say that here, the Mechaber obviously leaves out this din, because here, either he's not teaching us this din, you could say that too, it's a separate din, right? or you could also add, as the Shachating brings down here, that this whole Chidush and Sif Hey is coming to exclude the Ramban. What's the Machlokes Ramban and the Rashi? Big question comes up, raised by the Ramban. Why don't you just say in all these kind of questions, Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula? Forget about Toilim for a moment. Safek D'Rabbanan, we have a Safek Ina D'Rabbanan, Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula. That's what you would have here in Tukderis.
Right.
Tukderis of Heter. I don't know. The Ramban would hold
You can drink
Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula.
You can eat both. Done at the same time.
And where did we learn this from? Remember, let's go over a little bit the other case. We had the case of figs, and we had the case of Shnei Shvilim, one Tomeh, one Torah. In the case of the figs being of Truma, being formed or pressed into a special kli on top of barrels of other figs. And we don't know where it was pressed, the Truma figs. And it's a problem now. We have various barrels. Some figs of Trumas were pressed into the wrong barrel, but we don't know which barrel it is. And there's not enough to be mevatel. Machlokes Rabbi Elyahu and Yeshua. Rabbi Elyahu says just consider everything me'urav. The bottom ones with the top ones. Even though the top ones are the ones that are really affected, because it's sitting on top. It's not really mixed. You have top figs, you have bottom figs. He says just assume or make believe everything is mixed together and everything can count towards being mevatel the truma. And even if you don't have enough in this barrel, you will have enough between the various barrels. The Bishop says no. At the most, he concedes, I can only grant you a taaruvos of top figs on the top layers. They can mix, but you don't mix the whole thing. So that was the machlokes by figs. And lechora, the Ramban learns from that over there, Rabbi Shua is machmer. But by Shnei Shvilim, we see two people coming. One went one path, one went the other path. One path is Tameh, one path is Torah. And they both did not come at the same time. See, we tell each one, you're Torah, don't worry about it. It's a question. We want to know if you can be misasik, the taharas. Each one is Torah. Why? Because we're toiling, that's a toiling too. It was the other one. We're telling this to each one of them, by the way. It was the other one. Even though each one went in another path. However, obviously, if they both came at the same time, we couldn't do that. You both Torah, no, that's impossible. But if each one came separately, it's a form of toiling, and we say, you know what? It's not you, it's him. We tell him it wasn't you, it was him that's Tameh. That's the chiddush. Now, the Ramban says, you know what? Great, it works there perfectly. Why doesn't it work by the figs being pressed? That Rabbi Shua is machmir there, because over there it must be talking about either it's one owner of all of them, right? Or two Baalim, two owners that come and ask at the same time. But if they would come at different times, like Shvilim, we should be able to say Toilin. And the Rashba said on that note, Toilin you don't say where bittul is required in a situation of bit. You have to come unto bit. That's what is happening over there. Toilin is only in a situation where you're going to designate it is already mekulkal anyway. Not that it has to be nisbatel now, and I would say it's going to be nisbatel here. You follow me? In other words, according to him, it makes no difference, 2 people or 1 person. So there's a question of why doesn't the Rashba see the 2 cases as the same? Shnei Shvilim, I mean, after all, that case is according to everybody, if the 2 come at different times. Apparently, some Mefarshim say you cannot learn Isser from Tuma. That of Halacha by Tuma is Tuma b'Reshusay Rabim, it's a Safek b'Reshusay Rabim, is Mutar. So you can't really, so everybody, some say, you cannot learn Isser from Tuma. In other words, the 2 are separate. But the Rashi was making a very important point, is that you cannot say Toilin in a situation where you have to come onto Bittul. The Toilin wasn't said that in that kind of a case. Toilin was only said when I have one that is Mekulkol, and I say, you know what, it went to the Mekulkol. Otherwise, but the Ramban says, you know what, it's a Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula. That's why he would say here, Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula. So the Mechaber is bringing down this halacha from the Rashba, in a sense, and telling us we don't hold like the Ramban. We don't hold like the Ramban. In this case, the 2 of them are heter. There's no toilet. I'm sorry.
Well, the Ramban wouldn't say there's toilet. Safek D'Rabbanan is for that reason. And why don't we say toilet?
Right. No, but that's what you're saying, right? In a sense.
No, by toilet,
yeah.
I actually made one part where I assumed that it certainly fell in there and not in the other one.
Right.
But by Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula, all I'm saying is I can eat this one because who says it fell in there? Maybe it fell in the other one. And Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula means that will be sufficient. No.
Yeah.
So why can't I say that?
Right. That's also another question that is also raised by the Rashba himself. Why can't you say Safek D'Rabbanan, just Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula?
And done.
So that's a good point. Maybe just spend a minute on that. In general, you should be able to say Bechlal without the idea of Tunu Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula. And the answer is that here we have a Reusa, we have an Nefila of an Isser. That's all. Good question. In the case where there is a Reusa of a Nefila of an Isser, the Isser fell, you don't say Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula. Otherwise, you're right. I mean,
so the full thought is a little more complex.
Yeah.
So with respect, do I have in this pot, and it's a Safek,
Right.
it's an Isser D'Rabbanan L'Day.
Right.
Do I have the Isser in this pot? I could say, I don't know if in this pot, Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula.
Right.
But because I have a certain event of it falling, this
Yes.
prevents me from being able to apply the Safek
To apply
D'Rabbanan
it,
L'Kula.
yeah.
In other words, if the Safek, whether or not I have an Isser in this pot was for some other reason, other than a certain event
Right.
of it falling,
Right.
I could say
I could
Safek
say.
D'Rabbanan
I could
L'Kula.
say. Should we say it all the time?
Exactly, that's why I'm surprised.
Right.
So when you have in addition the certainty of the event that it fell,
Right.
that prevents me from being able to apply what it, otherwise I could do, namely Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula.
Right. Exactly. All right. Let's go on to Se'id Vav. A little bit of clarification in Se'id Vav. That's where we left off. And here, actually, as I was saying, it's good to be me'ayin in the Makor, as far as the words of the Ramah are concerned. So what was Se'id Vav? Se'id Vav was a completely different kind of a situation where you have two kderas of heter. Or you can take their shade, but nofal isul techasaben. So you have an isul falling into one of them, and you actually know where it fell. You know. And then later on, sometime chazav and nofal isur letech achasmen. The second time around the isur fell, but this time you don't know. What was the chiddush here? The chiddush was, you know what? Somehow that first kdera got it twice. Wherever it fell the first time, that's where it fell the second time. Shani oimer right? Ani oimer lemokum isur rishon nofal gam hashem.
This is also toilet, no?
Of course.
And the first asserts that part.
Right.
So what's the chiddush?
Oh, so maybe should we answer this question?
If there's a better place to
Okay, you know what? No. Okay, all right.
Who says a bid'ah?
Okay, no. You know what? Let's handle this because I promised
if
you.
there was a biddle, then we wouldn't be saying
No,
this.
I promised you last time that I would deal with this now. Okay.
No, but he said something important.
Yeah.
What if Isser the first time around was mevatel in 60 that part?
We're going to talk. We're going to talk about that. That's the Ramah. That's the Ramah. We're unsure a little bit of where the Ramah is headed with his comment about
so
Shishim.
that was the Ramah.
Yeah, that's the Ramah, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
That's why it's important to look into Beis Yosef clearly, and there's good reason why he says that. We'll see. All right. So before we go on to the second half of the Sifa, we have a Reisha and a Seifa. The Reisha is you have the Issa falling into a pot where you see it, you know it. Second, Issa falls into a pot, you don't know which pot it is it the first or the second. And we say, you know what? It's a form of toilet. It fell into the first one too, and therefore Guess what? You can eat the second pot. Don't worry about it. Big chiddush, but Ilan asked a good question. How is this any different than Seif Aleph? Okay, where we have a situation pretty much the same, similar to this, that if you have a pot that's Asr and a pot that's Mutter, you say it went to the Asr. And that's what's happening here too. What's the chiddush here? That the second piece that you don't know where it went, you say it went to the Asr. Well, we learned that already before.
Exactly.
Okay. So anyway, so what's the chiddush over here? The Bach wants to say, you know what? Here we're talking about the chiddush here, even on an Isser D'Oraisa.
Oh, the second Isser and Isser D'Oraisa?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay? It's a big chiddush. The Bach says that. Right?
Why suddenly can we say that?
That's why the Shach and Taz are upset. How can you say that? Yeah, yes, it's right. We know we never say toilet on an Isser D'Oraisa.
Yes, and just because the first part became an Isser through falling in there, all of a sudden we can say on an D'Oraisa.
I have to admit to you, I didn't go through the whole Bach this time, but I think the Shach and Taz, I can rely on them if they have a problem with the Bach. It was a problem. I mean, we all understand why it's a problem. Okay. So anyway, that's what the Bach wants to say, that there's it's a good question, right? So his answer to that question is, you know what? The Chiddush is it's an Isser D'Oraisa too.
But it's quite an answer.
Yeah. Now, the Taz and Shach say, no way. We don't say toilin by Isser D'Oraisa. Flatly no. And they hold the din is like this. The Chiddush over here is that even if the Kedera, the first Kedera that is also Midrabanan because there's no Shishim, okay? Even though the first Dera is also Midrabanan because there's no Shishim required Midrabanan, still we consider that the Kedera Mekul Keles. Right? As I began to explain last time, I think. You know, it's Batal Beroiv, so you really don't really have an Isser here. But you do. It's not Batal B'Shishim. So even though the first Gedera is not completely Asr, right, because it's Batal B'Roiv, but it is Asr, but it's only Asr Midirabana because there's no Shishim, still you consider that enough of a kilkul to say that it went there too.
Now I know why the Bach wants to say the D'Oraisa.
Why?
Because he wants to say even more. He wants to say, even though I only have an Issa D'Rabbanan, let's just said.
Right.
And therefore, D'Oraisa, I have food that's not Mekolkol. So L'choira, I should say, now that I have an Issa D'Oraisa, I'm not going to say Sfal in there because now it's going to be Mekalkalit, even D'Oraisa. So he wants to say the Chiddush is, even so I can say it fell in there.
One more time? I think you're leading.
Yeah. Well, I think why the Bach said it, and
yes.
he got caught up in a different problem.
Right, go ahead.
But why the Bach said it, based on the Shach and Taz,
right.
that we're saying in that part there's an Issa D'Rabbanan. Now, if an Issa D'Rabbanan falls in there, fine. It was Mekulkal D'Rabbanan, and it remains Mekulkal D'Rabbanan.
Right.
But the Oraisa, this part is not Mekulkal.
Right.
So if I have an Issa D'Oraisa that now fell the second time around, if I'm going to say it fell into that Mekulkal part, in terms of the standards of this Isser, that is the Oraisa, that pot is not Mekulkal, the Oraisa.
Yeah.
So I'm being Mekulkal something that is, in terms of its own halacha, of standards the Oraisa, I'm being Mekulkal something that is permitted, because there's a right.
Right.
So the Bach wants to say, no, once it was a Mekulkal the Rabbanan, since I can't eat it because of the Rabbanan, it doesn't matter anymore that the Oraisa, this is not Mekulkal. Even if the Isser was the Oraisa, I'll still designate that it fell in there and being Mekulkal now the Oraisa.
I'm not sure I understood that.
We said if something is a heter pot,
right,
then I can't say toilet on.
Right,
it's a heter
that's
pot.
correct.
Now this pot has a double nature.
Right.
The Rabbanan it's Mekulkal.
Right.
The Oraisa it's permitted.
Right.
So look out, but the Oraisa I shouldn't be saying toilet. Because the Oraisa, it's permitted.
But you can never say toilet on the Oraisa. That's the problem.
No, that's the problem he gets into.
He gets into
that problem anyway.
He gets in. Okay, I see.
So I don't have to worry about
You're
that.
right.
He gets into the
I
problem
see.
no matter
Yeah,
what
but I
you
see.
say.
Okay, then I see what you're saying.
Why did he say the Oraisa?
Right.
What was motivating him?
Okay.
So I'm saying maybe, given that Shach and the Taz, if you're saying in that other part there's an Issa D'Rabbanan.
Right.
So maybe his Chiddush was going to be, even though it's only Asa D'Rabbanan and D'Oraisa, it's permitted.
Right.
So I shouldn't be able to say toilet because I'm talking about something something that's permitted in terms of
Right.
Isser D'Oraisa. And I'm going to Asser it D'Oraisa once I say it fell in there. Nevertheless, I can say it fell in there.
No, even though now I'm going to be making it also D'Oraisa.
D'Oraisa, it's mutter right now. So I don't say toilin on something that's mutter.
Yeah.
D'Oraisa, it's mutter. I shouldn't be able to say
Right.
toilin.
Yeah.
But now that it's the Rabbanan Asr, I can't consume it anyway.
Right.
So that it's mutter D'Oraisa is only academical.
Okay.
Hypothetical, because I can't eat it. Practically, I
Sure,
can't
sure,
eat
sure.
it.
Yeah.
So I can say even the toilin on the Isser D'Oraisa that it's found in there, even though D'Oraisa
Okay,
wasn't
could
there
be.
until now
Yeah,
it's mutter.
I would have to think about it. I understand.
Maybe
yeah.
that's what-
it
that's
could
what
be.
motivated
It
it.
could be he's trying to say there's some chiddush involved with
And
that. Yeah.
then,
Okay.
and then the
yeah.
Chavenet does it, but ways to get into trouble from a different perspective because of
Right,
it's
right, right.
easy to on their eyes.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, what's more is that the Shach brings in the Rashba's name. This is an additional important point, that an Isser D'Oraisa, right? An Isser D'Oraisa that has a Shir D'Rabbanan problem, as we say, Nisgalgel to D'Rabbanan, Isser D'Oraisa of a Shir D'Rabbanan, has the same din of an Isser D'Rabbanan of basic Deirus. In other words, that one of them is Isser.
I didn't understand.
Okay, let me explain that. Yeah. When you have two Kderas, and one has an Isser, what is the Isser? What kind of an Isser are we talking about? So we said before that we're talking about in an Isser D'Rabbanan situation, right? That was the Kiddush of Toilin. Shumre Shel Gid as an example.
So what we're trying to get rid of through toilet is a Rabbanan.
Right.
We're not talking about now what answers the part that I'm going to designate.
Right. That's all we said. That in the case of the Isser falling in, we were talking about an Isser D'Rabbanan, because you don't say Toilin and Isser D'Oraisa. But what about the Isser in the pot itself? Okay. Does it make a difference? That wasn't clear. So let me quote you what he says over here.
Who's that talking about?
The Shach bringing down the Rashba. That from the Rashba it's mashma that an Isser D'Oraisa and a Shir D'Rabbanan has the exact same din like an Isser D'Rabbanan in the two Kederas, where one of them has an Isser. But, he continues on to say, I would have thought that in two Kederas of Heter, we would be toiling only in an Isser D'Rabbanan, but not in an Isser D'Oraisa with a Shir D'Rabbanan. Kamash Melon, that in two Kederas of Heter, let me see here. Let me see if I can find it instead of my notes here. Let me read to you from inside. Because of Niddah shebechol ze ein chiluk ben ima Isur D'Oraisa or D'Rabbanan. Venir, what does that mean? Venir de balo ima de lo tema kivan de arashbo vanim shochim achrov lo kosvu de Isur D'Oraisa b'shir D'Rabbanan dino ki Isur D'Rabbanan rak bebeis gederos she'achas mehen shel Isur im kin dafka k'she'oyo gdera achas muchazekes kvar b'shel Isur anu oimrim de ein chiluk ben Isur D'Rabbanan le'Doraisa v'shir D'Rabbanan כגון בין ממינו ורויב, אבל כאן דקדרוסים של היתר, אם כן נאמר דווקא באיסור שהוא ממש דרבנן, טוילין להקל, אבל לא באיסור דאורייסה ושיר דרבנן.
That was actually related to what?
כמשמעון דלייסה, אלא בכל זה אין חילוק בין איסור דאורייסה ושיר דרבנן או איסור דרבנן.
That's related to what I was saying.
In other words, I would think that it would, by two kederas of heter, we would be more stringent. And we would require that the Isur that's involved be only an Isur, pure Isur D'Rabbanan.
Right.
And not an Isur D'Oraisa that was Nisgalgal to a D'Rabbanan, where the issue was a Shir D'Rabbanan. Kamash Melon, that it makes no difference. Over here, Kamash Melon,
right,
that even in two K'deras of Heter, this is the way the Rashba is learning, you would still be able to say Toilin. In other words, two K'deras of Heter would not be any worse than one K'der of Isra and one K'der of Heter. Even in two K'deras of Heter, you would be able to say, in the case where it fell into one, in the case of Sivav, that the second one fell into the same one. It doesn't have to be only an Isra D'Rabbanan, even an Isra D'Oraisa that became a D'Rabbanan. Where is that? When you have Roiv, but you don't have Shishim. I mean, this is similar to what the Shach was saying before.
It's also similar to what the Bach was saying. Only the Bach didn't clear.
Maybe that could be. That's why I'm saying the Bach. Maybe if we looked into more, we may be able to figure out what he said. But that's pretty much what he's saying here.
Now, what I don't understand with all that the Shach is saying, after the Shach has success, when he says two kederas of heter, he's talking about two kederas in which one kedera previously fell into vadai.
Yeah.
So that kedera of heter has become actually a kedera.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what did the Shach now explain? What's the chiddush of saying that in such a case, say toilet? Why, according to this Shach, is different from our case Sif Aleph, where I had a kedera?
Remember, in Sif Vov,
Alpha Aleph, yeah.
Yeah, but what's the difference? In Sif Vov, one of the kederas itra. You know what itra means? It has become a problem. It's lost its status.
It's not a sense of being
Because
permissible.
the Isser, on the first time around, we know it fell there.
Right.
Okay? So what we're saying is the second Isser fell there too.
And now is this a different situation than the one we had in Sif?
And even though by the way, we were saying that there may be a difference in what the Isser is inside the Isser falling in, that's not really the question here. The question here is the Gabi only what's falling in, not really what's in the.
So now the Kedera, we agree that the Kedera that in the Isser, the Vadai Isser fell into the. We agree that Kedera is now a Kedera.
Right, regardless of the Raisa Rabbanon, I would think that's what that's what the Shach has explained to Shem Rashba. I would think there may be a difference in the following way. In a Kedera of one is Isser and one is Heter, okay?
Yes.
And we say Toilin, it could even be an Isser Deraisa falling in, right? Remember? Yeah. But I have Roiv. If I have Roiv, so I'm okay. I can say it went to the Kedera HaMekulkeles.
Right.
Why? Because right now the only question is on a Derabanan. Remember this Galgal?
Yeah, because the Roiv.
So it's still a form of Toilin, but it's not a real Toilin. And the Deraisa, it's a Toilin on an Isser
Where do I have
Derabanan.
Roiv?
I have Roiv right now in the pot.
In the pot, which one? I have two pots.
Either both.
Why do I need them both?
Because I have to have them both.
Why do I have to have it? The one that I'm not going to eat.
No, you're right. I'm sorry. In the case of Isser and Heter, two Kderas,
Yes.
as opposed to one pot and two pieces.
Yeah,
Right. In the case of two Kderas, as long as I have Roiv where I'm saying it fell in, okay?
No, where I'm going to eat. I don't want to have a suffix deraisa in what I'm eating. It has to be.
Yeah, as long as I have Roiv on the one that I'm going to eat, thank you.
Yes.
Then I'm safe, and I can say it fell into the Isser.
Okay.
Right? Now, even though it's an Isser Deraisa, we're talking about an Isser Deraisa, Basar Shkusa, Basar Nevela. Right? That was the example there.
But my problem now has become a derabana.
But the problem right now is the Derabana.
Why? Because the roiv in the pot from which I'm going to eat abolishes the
Not
Isser.
the one you're going to.
What?
The one that's.
The roiv. I have to have roiv in the one I'm going to eat from.
No.
Of course.
You need to have road into the one that.
No, the one that falls into is not a problem because if that one's...
I'm not going to eat from
if
there
that was
anyway.
a pot that was usser, I don't care. If that pot is usser, you see, we got confused. Here we're talking about two kederas of heter.
Let's
it's a little bit different.
Aleph. Let's say Sif Aleph and clarify.
Right. In Sif Aleph, we're talking about, we still have to have either 50-50 or roiv, depending if it's an Isser Deraisa or Derabanan. Remember that? So it obviously, we're talking about the one that we're going to be eating. Yeah. The one that we're going to be eating has to, right.
The one that you're going to be eating has to have roiv.
Right. As he says towards the end, "Bamed vor mamur shtovchalei la'akar afilu ena heter rabba la'isur, she'ena isur gam ke rabba laheter. Aval isur rabba laheter on the one I'm going to eat, on the one I'm going to eat, it's a problem. In an isur deraisa, obviously the same thing.
The isur deraisa in the pot. We're talking about the isur deraisa that fell.
Right.
Isur deraisa in the pot I'm going to eat from. I have roiv.
Right.
But I don't have 60.
That's right. That's what we have an issue on the Rabbanan.
So my issue is on a Rabbanan, because as far as the Isser Deraisa is concerned, the Roiv takes care of it.
Right.
My issue is on a Rabbanan, and with respect to the issue on the Rabbanan, I can say it's found in the pot, that's sort of cool.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't care how much there is there.
There, I don't care how much.
That's right. That's
very
correct.
nice.
Yeah.
And that pot that is Mekulkel
Right.
could be an Isser Derabanan that's Mekulkelit.
Yes.
Whatever
Of course, whatever.
whatever
Right. It really doesn't make that much of a difference.
Maybe something fell in it and was Mekulkelit.
Right. The difference is, however, what the Rashba...
Whatever the reason is, it's Mekulkel
Right.
now. Maybe something fell in it and was Mekulkelit.
Right.
That's Sif Zayin. So what's the difference?
That's not Sif Zayin.
The last thing that I said, I don't care why it's Mekulkel.
Right.
Maybe something fell in and was Mekulkelit. That's Sif Zayin.
No. You're mixing up.
Sif
That's
Zayin.
Sif Vav.
Oh, Vav. Okay, Sif Vav. Yeah, that's Sif Vav.
Yeah.
So it is the same case.
Yeah. So that's where I began to explain. In other words, that the Shach says that the Chiyah, according to the Shach, I brought in the Rashba, the additional point that the Rashba makes, that maybe you would think in two Gderes of Heter it's any different than in one Gder of Isser and Heter, that in two Gderes of Heter you would only allow for an Isser D'Rabbanan to fall in. To say that wherever the first Isser D'Rabbanan fell in, that's where the second Isser D'Rabbanan fell in, because they're two Gderes of Heter. Kamash Melano, that even in two Gderes of Heter, the same din of Toilin applies like we had in Sif Aleph, that if you have a Deoraisa even, that was nisgalgal to the Rabbana because the issue is at the Rabbana, it's still permissible. I would still say, I know where it fell the first time, therefore I know where it fell the second time.
Why would you not say that?
Two Gderes of Heter maybe would be different. That's what they say. That's what the Rashach says.
Yes.
I would think maybe they would be different.
And why?
Right.
So,
because the one is not really more mekolkol. It's a big chiddush to say.
Legabe what? Legabe the Isser D'Oraisa.
So what are you trying to say now? The Bach?
The problem with the Bach was that
Yeah.
he was talking about an Isser D'Oraisa without saying it's Megalgal.
It could be. That's a very good point. Maybe. It could be. That he's really saying the same thing. But
Right.
maybe...
But he didn't say the Megalgal, and that's what got him
got him into trouble. yeah, very interesting. Could be.
Otherwise,
yeah.
I mean, come on, why should he say
Could be.
something that's so outrageous?
Yeah. You know, when I have time, that's what I like to do. I like to show how there's no machlokes at all. You know, we didn't understand what he was saying. It's very possible that the Bach was leading onto something that he didn't finish or it wasn't clear. But anyway, so that was the ratio, the first part of Sivav, which is understood.
But that's the Rashba. What was the Shach saying?
No, the Shach was only saying a very important point, and that is that when the Isser in the pot, in the first pot, is an Isser, the Rabbanon, in other words, we don't have Shishim, it's still called Kilkul. Don't say, well, it's really a heter pot all along. It still is a heter pot. There's Shishim there. There's Roiv. There's no Shishim. It's still in the rice. It's only no. That's a Kilkul enough for me to say it went there too. That's the Chiddush. If you want to know what the Chiddush, what the difference between that and that, this would be maybe the additional detail of that's different. But I think, the Mechaber introduces this whole thing because of what he says in the Basar Yosef. In other words, he may be a little bit redundant, but he's going to, in the Sefer, he's going to say something completely different that he didn't say before. So he brings in the first part, and then he tells you, as opposed, look at the contrast. And that's what we're going to see. So even though the Shach says a very good point, don't think it's not a kilkul, it is a kilkul. But maybe you don't have to go so far. What's the contrast? What's the Sefer of the Sivav? The Sefer of the Sivav, I don't know where it fell the first time. I do know where it fell the second time. So now what? So what happened when I don't know when it fell the first time? It's Asr, to Heter, right? I know where it fell the second time, it's also Asr. Don't think that now I know where it fell the second time, the first one fell where the second one fell.
I can do a reverse.
I can't do a reverse. You follow me? Because that's what I did in the beginning. I said wherever the first one fell, the second one fell. Now I know where the second one fell. No. Now that you know, you don't know where the first one fell, so it became Asr. You want to undo it now because, but now the second one, I know where it fell. Let's say it fell there too. No, we don't undo the Isser that was established. So there's Poskim that actually,
very interesting.
There's some Poskim that say, okay, I have a great question. What happens if it was Lo Noida? We didn't know where it fell the first time right away. Okay, end of our stuff, we can go into all kinds of scenarios and questions. But this is a contrast, that the second Isser does not undo the first Isser. The first Isser became an Isser, it's already Muchzak, we can't undo it, and therefore, they're both Asr. Now,
what's the Lo Noida doing there all of a sudden? On the first falling, I don't know where it was, the whole point.
No, I don't know, but I know I have a problem.
Oh, I don't know.
I didn't know what I was saying about
the knowledge of the problem
knowledge
is second to knowing where it fell.
Right. That's what I was saying. I was using Noida in that case. Yeah. Okay, but let's look at the Ramah, because the Ramah, I wasn't able to clearly identify what he was talking about, so I left it as a tzorech, and I wasn't sure. What is he being mechadish here? But it looks like the Aruch HaShulchan has a really nice, interesting piece on this, and this is what the Ramah says: "V'dafka she'ein shishim levatel ha'isur shenafal sham." But all of what we just said is on condition that there's no shishim to mevatel the iser. Avalim hoya sham shishim mevatel iser. If you do have shishim somewhere to mevatel the iser, shenofar sham have a kilu, nofar sham isu klal. It's like you didn't have any iser falling in. And I didn't realize at first, what is he talking about? Is it the ratio or the seifa? Where is he saying? what difference does it make? He says, if there is shishim to be mevatel the Isser, it's as though there's no Isser having falling in at all. Therefore, what? What's the chiddush here? What is this? I mean, what is he really trying to tell us here? Anyway, if you read the Beis Yosef, it's very clear. The Beis Yosef that's the makor of these words. Beis Yosef b'shem Rashba. He says he's talking about the Reisha. The Reisha, yes.
That's what you're suspecting, but you could have said it after.
I wasn't sure. I mean, the Sefer, the Reisha, because either way, it wasn't making so much sense in the Sefer. But what's the chiddush on the Reisha? If when it first fell the first time around, I know where it fell, it's also right. Then the second one fell. I say, you know what? Good. It fell in the first one. I'm safe with the second one. But the Ramah brings down. But if in the first spot there was shishim, to be mevatel the first Isser, then it's like a gdeir of heter.
Of course.
Right?
Provided I can't recognize it, I can't remove it.
Right?
Yeah.
Very good. That makes sense. Because then you don't have a gdeir of Isser, you have a gdeir of heter.
Yes.
So why say it went there? You can't say that it went there. It will remain mutter, and this one will remain, and the second one, who you're saying went there, will remain usher.
So that makes the whole thing more bewildering.
Yeah.
Because first we turned a pot into an isser,
Right.
and we said a chiddush that we say toilet on that.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
shkoya.
Right.
And then we come and we say, and then the Rama comes and says, and if it never became an isser, we don't say toilet. Also shkoya.
So you
Who would ever want to say such a thing?
Right. So what your question is what's the chiddush?
What's the chiddush on the Rama?
On these words. In other words, we know that we're back to square one.
Who would want to say toilet?
Where the two gderos are heter, and therefore what? One of the gderos will be mutter, but the other one will be usher. In other words, on the other one we will have the suffix.
A blemish on that mutter one, because we know that there is an isser in
Right,
there,
right,
except for it's halachically.
Exactly, but it's bottle.
Yeah.
So that one would be mutter, but this, in other words, the second one doesn't go scot-free. In other words, it doesn't go.
Well, let me tell you what the problem.
It stays usher because on that one we have a legitimate suffix.
So the truth of the matter is,
we don't gain from this one.
We're ushering both pots now.
No, we're ushering only the second one. Why should we usher the first one?
Because the first that fell in there was misbattled. So the pot with the
well, that would depend on if you have a shishim to be mevatel the second issur too.
No, we know where it fell in.
Yeah, we know where it fell in.
So we mevatel.
Yeah, it's only a question of isur mevatel in zeh, or how much fell in. If it's in his battle, if it's
What we're saying is we don't know where the second one fell.
We don't know. Yeah.
So we would have to usher both pots because we've got both two pots of head.
Yeah, but why should you usher the first pot?
Because of the second that fell, we don't know where it fell.
Yeah, but there's shishim.
But the shishim is against the first isser.
Maybe there's shishim against the second one too.
Well, in either pot, if there's shishim, they're needed. If in either pot there's shishim.
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's very good. Yeah, you're right. One second, you're right. Because Mechaber said actually, if you have shishim, if you still have shishim. If you still have shishim, then it wouldn't be a problem. They would both be mutter. They would both be mutter. Right. So in this case, if you don't have shishim, they would both be usher.
Only then.
What?
Only then.
Yeah. The point is, but the point that he was making anyway is that you would not gain anything by saying it fell there in the first one. That's what I was trying to say.
Why would you gain anything?
In other words, if you had shishim in the first pot, to be mevatel the isser,
which is the first.
They go back to revert to being like two gderos of heter in a sense. So you have a suffix.
You're being mevatel the first isser.
The first isser, yeah.
Not the second.
So you're right. It's mashma from what you're saying. Yes, mashma from what you're saying is that if you still have shishim, then what's the problem? In any of the pots, actually, in any of the pots, if you have shishim, it's never a problem.
Exactly. So the shishim that he's talking about has to be the shishim of the first.
Well, yes, that's what the Beis Yosef is talking about. That the shishim is in the first pot. Since the shishim is in the first pot, so it is as though it never fell in, which means it continues to be a k'der shel heter. If it's a k'der shel heter, both are usher.
So that is why the Ramah is saying that. Because you might come and want to say, since I have a little bit of a blemish in the pot that the first isser fell in, maybe this little bit of blemish is already sufficient to be able to say toilet on that one.
Once you say something has a blemish.
Because even though it's
he wants to say,
but it's not.
In halachically it's mevatel, but nevertheless, there's an isser.
There are times when we learned that in Hilchos Taaruvot, an isser fell in, more isser falls in eventually.
It adds up.
It adds up.
That's one.
So I know I was beginning to think that this may make a difference here, but Ilan is right that if you would have shishim, assuming that there's no problem with the isurim mitzdarfin, okay, if you still really have shishim, then obviously we don't have a problem in any of the k'deros. It's only when you don't have, for whatever reason you don't have shishim, that the two continue to be k'deros of heter, and therefore because of the suffix, they're both asur.
So now you want to permit.
They're both asur because of the second piece.
Now you want to permit at least one of the two.
You would.
Maybe you would want to say, since I know there is an isser in that pot.
Right.
So maybe that's enough of a blemish for the reason you said, or because we can also say, don't eat all the food in the pot in one meal.
Right.
Whatever. Different considerations
right.
in view of the fact that there is an isser in there. Even if there was mevachol. So at that point, I might want to say, okay, so since there was
a blemish, maybe it still fell there.
At least I'll use that blemish to permit the other one instead of ushering both.
Good point. In other words,
that's what the Rambam says.
That's why he has to. That's why he has to bring them. That's what the Basar says. Really, don't think that it's a blemish, which really helps us understand. That's why I like the Aruch HaShulchan. What does the Aruch HaShulchan say, real quickly? He says, "What's the chiddush here?" I mean, he says, "What's the chiddush?" I mean, it's a dereshal heter, so it's a suffix again, right? He says we do find in other halachas the toilin b'mekulkal. You always blame the one that's already mekulkal anyway. And he brings down an example of ksomim, stains. Two women, wore the same dress, and we have a ketem, a stain on it. Who did it come from? When it's tmeya, right? We don't know. So it's a suffix. I mean, they can both be tmeya, unless there's reason to believe that one is more likely than the other one. For example, one is young and one is old, right? One is pregnant and one is not, right? Various examples. So he says like this. Over there, however, by Ksomim, you have a bigger chiddush. And what's the bigger chiddush? That even though one is not more mekulkul than the other one, right? One is not more mekulkul. In other words, one is not more tamid than the other. That we could say, it's her. Nevertheless, what do we say? If there's any reason to believe that one is more likely than the other, we'll blame that one. The younger is more likely than the one that is older to have had the kesem blood, right? So he says, I would think that same way of thinking applies here. That it's not only a din in kilkul that we're toiling, that maybe we can extend this concept of kilkul to apply it even to likelihoods. What does it mean? Since the first piece fell in pot number one, somehow, statistically, pot number one has more of a propensity to nephilas.
To
attract falling pieces. Because if you think about it, that's what really is happening here. We're saying it fell here more than it fell here. Why? Because of some propensity, some law of physics.
No, that's not that. You know what the problem is, I think, with that?
Yeah.
Then you're saying every time
give me the Aruch HaShulchan there? Yeah.
Every time you have a 50-50 chance,
right,
you're going to say once that 50-50 chance is resolved by an event, that event proves it was a 51-50 chance. And that's not true.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah. A 50-50 chance doesn't become a 51-49 chance just because the event resolves the...
Right. So he says, in the case of Ksomim, if one woman was the Tahor and one was Tmeya, Tolim HaKesem BeTmeya, obviously, she was the one. She was Tmeya anyway. Right? It's like Tolim HaKalkol BaMekulkol. But what if they were both Tahoras? They're both Tmeyas. Right? Because we don't know. But, he says, it's Mevor there that even if they were both Tahoras, if there was any reason to believe that one is more likely than the other to have a Kesem, we blame it on her. Even though she's not more Mekulkeles, all it is that there's more of a reason to believe that she's the one, because it's more likely. Well, maybe here too. Maybe one is more likely than the other. Somehow it's a magnet, it attracts. If the first nefila brought down the second nefila. Kamashra, no, we don't say that. Obviously, that's the chiddush over here. That, it has to do with only mekulkal. It has nothing to do with more of nefila. Is it mekulkal? Yes. It's not mekulkal because there's shishim. He's basically saying what you're saying. It has a blemish. It fell there once. Maybe it fell there again. There is a blemish. There's a reason. No, that blemish doesn't count. because it's not a din of how many nephilas, which one attracts more nephilas. It's a din of mekulkol. Toiling is a din of whoever's mekulkol, that's where I'm going to blame. If he's not mekulkol right now, I'm not going to say he has more of a chance to attract, even though by over there, we do say that. If there's more of a chance that one woman will be more tamei than the other, I'm going to blame her for the kesem.
But you know, the point...
So it's nice. Isn't that interesting? Don't think it's propensity.
Interesting point.
Yeah.
Over there in Mayas,
right.
What I'm doing is I'm not saying I say toilet in a case where one has more of a property.
Right.
Over there, what I'm saying is I'm taking away the suffix based on a justified expectation that it's more likely to come from her.
Right.
It's no longer a 50-50 chance. I just took away the suffix.
Okay.
The 50-50 chance between the two women would that either of them is equally likely to have lost that drop.
Right.
So I'm saying, okay, I'm going to look at the details of this particular situation, take away the suffix.
It's not an equal suffix over there.
But if I don't have a suffix here if I don't have an equal suffix here in our kederas, then I don't have a din of toilet.
Right. You're right. But I liked it anyway. I thought he was trying to...
I like what the other Shulchan did.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes, it says, no, it's at least in the Chiddush of Toilin. In Yore Deah, in Taaruvot. Yeah, it has the din with, it's a din of kilkol. That which is mekulkol, like the Rashi said, that's the only time we say Toilin, not in any other situation.
In other words, if we did in fact have a pot that's more likely to attract.
For some reason that we know for sure.
Then we wouldn't have a suffix, not that we would say Toilin.
Which is what you're saying over there. It's really one is less of a suffix than the other. Yes. Right. Okay, let's just finish up with the din of tziruf. The last seif of Zayin talked about two kederas, one of heter, two kederas of heter, v'nofal isul letoich achas mehem, we don't know which one. Ve'im be'achas kedei levat lo is, v'yesh b'shtein kedei levat lo. But between the two of them, we can be mevatel. So you can be metzaref. You can combine the two. So we're going back on the halacha that we said before, in a sense, that you have two kederas of heter. But now we're adding the fact that, you know what, we don't know where it fell, and neither of them has enough to be mevatel, but between the two of them they do. What we said before is because they didn't have. Either between the two of them there was not enough, but if you do in fact have between the two to be mevatel, mitzarfas levatel v'lo'oid, not only that, afilu achas b'bayis v'achas b'aliyah. One is in the first floor, one is in the second floor, mitzarfas. As long, who adin afilu, even 100 pots. But when they all belong to Adam Echad. Why? If it belongs to one person, we say the following halacha that osid lis'arv, they're going to eventually combine. If they belong to two people, in mitzarfos. So here he paskins, like the shita that holds, that it has to be of one person. So what we have here is a kula and a chumrah, in a sense. Here we say, if it belongs to two people, it's no good. It has to belong to one person. On the other hand, according to the Ramban, if it would be two people, it would be okay. Yeah, because according to Ramban, you don't even need tziruf agderas, because we say ksafed rabbanon lekula. But there's a chumrah here. The chumrah here would be that we're not mitzaref unless it's one person, because soifal is Arab. In other words, this is all based on the Ramban in a sense. Belonging to one person has the problem that, I should say, according to the Ramban, it's a problem. According to us, it's not a problem. Because, on the contrary, one person means that you're going to combine everything, you're going to be mitzaref it, not two people. So in other words, the way we read it in the Mechaber, that tziruf works well with one person because of Seif and Lisarv. But it does not work well according to the Ramban, since it's one person. He requires that two people, as we said before. Two people, he doesn't look at it as a problem of tziruf, he looks at it as a safed rabbanon lekula. Whereas one person would be a problem, or like two people coming at the same time. That's just a little detail that I want to bring out.
Why?
According to the Ramban, because it's both, everything is his. So we don't have the kula of safed rabbanon lekula, which we learned from another Mishnah, and as opposed to having two people come at not the same time. Because one person or two people at the same time is the same thing. So, but the way we're learning, we're only mitzaref if it belongs to one person because of seifel isarv, but not of two people. Because two people, you don't say seifel and isarv.
It's not going to be mitzvah.
Right, exactly. Now,
before you continue,
yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
So I have a pot on an
Right.
would be standing somewhere. You said
Right.
in the attic.
In the attic or second story, right.
And I have a pot in the kitchen downstairs. And a piece of fell.
Right.
Where was that?
Somehow somebody dropped it. We don't know.
No, but originally, before it was dropped, where was it located?
Doesn't say. It doesn't make a difference.
Well, if it was in my bedroom, and the pot with the food in, why would I suspect that it
Well,
was
obviously, we're talking about it wherever we have a real reasonable suffix that it could have easily been upstairs or downstairs. It's what we said before. If you have more of a reason to suspect, then it's not a real suffix. But anyway, I just want to finish.
So in other words, we're talking about a situation where I don't know where that is or was, but if it
Somewhat
dropped
like
somewhere,
that.
it either dropped in the pot upstairs or in the pot downstairs.
Right, yeah. And we don't know. It's a real suffix.
Or the alternative, you don't have enough downstairs.
Yeah.
So that you can add.
Well, that's the chiddush, is that you can be mitzaref two pots that eventually will be mixed. But let's just finish with this following halachas, important halachas that we didn't cover last time, and that is that the gabetziu, we have two more machloikesim. Does this apply b'min b'sheino minoi, or only b'min b'minoi? And does this apply on an isur d'oraisa or only on an isur d'orabban? The idea of tziruf. Okay, this is for the siyum of Hilchos Taaruvos, this is pretty much where we end.
So what you're asking right now is, sure, the foods are going to become mixed.
Right.
Use that as an argument to an isur d'oraisa that falls into one of them.
Yes.
Before.
Can we apply it tziruf? Okay. The second question is, does this apply min b'mino or bin b'mino? What's the problem min b'sheino mino? We have tam, and if you have tam, you have chanan. For those who hold, especially chanan b'shar isurim. So as far as chanan is concerned, the Taz pretty much and others say, even though the Bach again wants to say, oh chanan, so don't allow min b'sheino mino. As far as chanan is concerned, there appears to be a consensus that it's not a problem, because even though what you're going to have is initially a problem of chanan, since something is going to be eventually mitzaref, eventually combined, we don't worry about chanan. Okay? Now, where do we know this from?
Wait a second, but then we don't even have chanan.
We don't even have chanan.
Because ultimately always something will be combined by chanan.
Not really, no, not always. I mean, you were talking about two separate pots, and by the time you combine the two, you don't have the issue because you have bitul, right?
Because the whole piece, the isur that was making it.
The issue that may be causing tam be spread out. Therefore, if in one pot you may have chanan, you may have other pieces.
The chanan b'shar is the rabbanan anyway.
Exactly, okay, that's true. But anyway, so that chanan doesn't be the problem because they're going to be mitzaref. What about the mechaber doesn't seem to indicate any preference. On the other hand, it is brought down b'shem the Rambam. The Rambam says that this would apply even b'min b'sheino minoi, and even in Nisur Torah, because we see by tipas cholov, that fell on one piece. When we learn Basar and we'll be learning it, that you can mitzaref all the chatichas. That's all he says. That's all that's you see that from there that you can mitzaref all the chatichas even by min b'sheino mino, even by isur d'oraisa.
But not if it's going to be complete.
Even though, why doesn't the mechaber bring that? It appears like the mechaber is not necessarily going to say that. They explain the mechaber because over there you can't use that as an example, even though he quotes it as to what he holds over here, because over there it's already in the stew.
Exactly, so it's not later.
So it's not exactly like later. It's not exactly the same. But some want to say, based on what the Rambam says, that his position is very clear, that you could be mitzaref even min b'sheino minoi, and then even isur d'oraisa. That's the Rambam. Why? Because of the kol ma shenichnas b'safek mesayeh levatel.
But not by Basar b'chala.
By the tipo, only by the tipo. Only in the case of tipo, okay, that he brings down, that they're all mitzarefes to mevatel. And we don't see that chaticha. Yes, and we don't see that chaticha becomes a chanan.
They're in the pot already.
Yeah, the shach appears to hold that this would work b'yovesh, even though in Nisur d'oraisa, and would not, of course, allow for nesinas tam. The Taz and the Gro hold that the tziruf of tukderes is only okay for an isur d'rabbanan, or an isur d'oraisa that in a shir d'rabbanan is also acceptable. Min b'sheino mino, we said that the Rambam says it's mitzaref, the Dasar Rashba is not mitzaref, and apparently halacha l'maisa the shach holds in this case like the Rashba, that we don't hold tziruf by min b'sheino mino. The Pri Chodesh, I wasn't so sure what he said. It could be that he's matir be'isur d'rabbanan, even by min b'sheino mino, if it's only the Rabbanan. Chochmas Odom paskins to be makel b'deraisa, but only b'min b'minoi. The Taz and Shach, not like the Bach, are not choishes Shulchan, as we said before. And the Taz also brings down that if we're talking about bishulim that you're not going to be mixing anyway, like basar and chalav, pizza and steak, or if you're talking about one is sweet and one is sour, anytime you're talking about bishulim that you don't intend to mix, then obviously they're not mitzdaref. When we're talking about being mitzdaref, we're only talking about if you eventually are going to be combining them. Ramo, of course, says that yesh machmir,
and also only if it's the Rabbana.
Yeah.
Now, what if I change my mind? What if originally I wasn't going to combine them, but after the Islam say, you know what, I'm going to draw?
Well, that may have to do with the Ramah, because we don't hold it. Remember, we don't hold this as a real mevatel isra lechatchila if you're going to combine them anyway, because you're going to combine them.
I was saying no, but I didn't have the intention. It fell in. I say, you know what? I'm going to combine them out.
Yeah, with that you can't do.
You can't.
No, apparently not. That may be more like that.
But because I'm not really doing anything physically.
Right.
I'm just changing my mind.
Right.
Not to change my mind.
Sure. Anyway, there are more.
But we say about Islam if I don't do actually.
I don't think so, because when you change your mind, you're basically reducing the problem.
I'm eliminating the problem.
You think you want to eliminate the problem,
yes, but if I didn't do anything, can you call it mevatel Isra or anything? Nothing
no,
physical.
well, you're combining them.
No, I have in mind to later combine them.
Oh, you have in mind of something else.
And now when I have it in mind, now it becomes heter.
Yeah, but you don't. You said you don't have it in mind.
Now that it fell in, you have it in mind.
Yeah.
But the only thing that changed after it fell in, before it fell in, is my mind changed.
Yeah.
But nothing physically.
Yeah, it's mashal from the mechaber that it's only osid lis'arev.
Because mevatel isra la'atchila isn't the Rabbana.
Yeah, but it's only osid lis'arev. Avalimehim shel shnei bnei adam ein mistarfas. Because why? Because it's like two different people, also two different mindsets.
Two different people.
Yeah.
If the machshava counts.
Yeah.
Before that mistarov.
Right.
So we're going to say they're low ma'isa.
Right.
If we shava, follow this well.
Unless
machshava works to say you're going to combine, who've had no intent.
Right.
Not that you check for.
Right.
And machshava after the work as well.
Well, that's called more of a bitul isur lechatchila. Why do you have the machshava?
Is it if you don't do a ma'isa?
Yeah. Is it?
It's only machshava.
Well, you haven't done it yet.
I didn't combine it yet. I only have the machshava.
So the machshava, you didn't do anything wrong
After
with
it
the machshava.
fell. After it fell.
Yeah, but the machshava doesn't change anything.
Why? Now it's going to be a syrup.
Yeah. What is that?
Now it's going to be a syrup. You mean because I changed my mind after it
fell in? It's already a problem. It's already an issur. It's already an issur. It's not also the start, right? Anyway, the Ramah says yesh machmirin, as far as the Machaber says, yesh machmirin that filu be'odum echad ein lehakel, right? Even though it belongs.
What if it's not Niddah?
Right.
If I change my mind before Niddah?
Okay, that question is raised. That question is raised. Yeah. Yesh machmirim that filu be'odum echad ein lehakel.
That's the Ramah now.
Yeah. In other words, even be'odom echad, umihu ein le'ochloi elo le'achar shi'erveno, yachad. De'az kvar nizbatel ha'isur. I'm sorry, that's le'tzorech hefsed. Yesh machmirim afilu be'odom echad ein le'achar, but le'tzorech hefsed, yesh le'hatri be'odom echad, that is, with umihu ein le'ochloi elo le'achar shi'erveno yachad, after you've actually mixed them. De'az kvar nizbatel ha'isur. In other words, you would have to have mixed it, of course. You would not be, some say not necessarily.
You know what's going on here?
Yeah.
What's going on here is
eat
the oraisa. Let's say
right.
this works by this is the oraisa.
Right. Yeah.
No, it doesn't work by this.
No, remember that was a machlokes. That was a machlokes. Anyway, the main point is that the Ramah here is machmer. The filu b'adam echad le'akel. But letzorech hefsed, he says it's okay as long as you don't eat it until you've mixed it.
Because if you mix it,
right.
it
becomes well, obviously everybody would hold like that. After it's mixed, it's not a problem.
So what's the problem? The problem is if you mix it in order to be mevatel.
Right. Well, obviously.
So if you had the intention to mix it all along, then once you actually do, you don't get the problem of a battle isla because you have the intention to mix it all along without it.
Right. So that's why it's not so much the intention is if this is usually combined or not combined. We actually are makel, the Taz is makel, and others as well, that even though you haven't mixed them yet, since they are intended to be mixed, they are considered as though they are already mixed, and therefore you can have them. They're mistarf, and you can even without them mixing. That is the way we hold. Okay, that's the siyum of Hilchos Taaruvos.
Wow.